Sanders there, just having the patience, letting the play develop, does a great job. On a window in the back of the end zone, he delivers the football perfectly, layering it over.
The Browns' assistant GM is brutally honest about Shedeur Sanders' future and Dillon Gabriel being named QB2. Guys,
just who you look up in October, you might not have a chance to get. We're just excited to get the talent, give him to the coaching staff, and let them deploy him the best way they see fit. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys know how we are just in terms of being active in that transaction.
What happens when an NFL exec decides to play crystal ball reader with Shedeur Sanders' career and casually ropes Dillon Gabriel into the vision? You guessed it, chaos, drama, and hot takes flying faster than a Cleveland weather swing. Browns assistant GM Glenn Cook just unleashed a set of brutally blunt opinions that read less like scouting analysis and more like open mic roast material. And believe me, the curveballs he tossed at Shedeur's future are ones nobody was braced for. Time to unpack the madness.
Okay, Cleveland, speaking of Shedeur Sanders makes the roster with the Browns, as we all thought he would. We just thought there would be 4 because they led us to believe there were 4, but that was part of their long con to trade Kenny Pickett, which I saw coming. Not that it required special eyesight skills. The moment that they emerged from the draft with 2 quarterbacks, Pickett was the guy that was in jeopardy for me. I was surprised they took 4 to camp. They did, and now they're down to 3 with an asterisk. Shedeur Sanders, number 3 on the depth chart behind Dillon Gabriel. He's the backup, and they really do like Dillon Gabriel.
If you're enjoying, please subscribe Shedeur Sanders to the channel. It helps more than you think. The Cleveland Browns know chaos better than anyone. They've cycled through quarterbacks like most people cycle through hairstyles, yet the hunt for the guy never seems to stop. So when assistant GM Glenn Cook was asked about Shedeur Sanders' NFL future, everyone braced for a safe, polished, PR-friendly response. Instead, Cook ditched the script, ripped off the gloves, and threw them straight on the table. What came next wasn't spin, it was raw honesty. And because honesty usually stings more than comfort, plenty of people weren't ready for what he had to say.
Media day for the Cleveland Browns front office, man. Couple of guys came out and spoke to the media, and they were speaking very highly about Dillon Gabriel. They let it be known he is definitely QB2. He's better than Shedeur for whatever reason. That's how they feel it. Me personally, I feel like it's a slap in the face to the Cleveland Brown fans and to the Sanders family, because for the simple fact, Shedeur was not given the same opportunity as Dillon Gabriel. It was displayed in front of the world when y'all put out the 3rd string line for him and let Dillon Gabriel run with the 2s. I don't give a damn how you spin it, what you say. He should have been given the same opportunity. If this was a true competition, and Shedeur truly had to earn everything he was given.
This wasn't some throwaway scouting note scribbled on the back of a napkin. It was a cold reminder of how NFL executives really operate. They're not fooled by Twitter hype trains or dazzled by Instagram edits. They don't care how slick a highlight reel looks, or how many times ESPN plays slow-motion clips of Shedeur adjusting his wristwatch before a pass. For them, Shedeur Sanders isn't a guaranteed superstar, he's a calculated gamble, one stacked with as much risk as reward. And Glenn Cook wasn't about to let fans or media get carried away believing otherwise. His honesty cut through the noise like a reality check no one wanted but everyone needed.
Let's hit on the first thing you said. Shedeur Sanders doesn't get to play the 2-minute drill. No crap, everybody, because the Cleveland Browns weren't going to let Shedeur Sanders go down there and get a touchdown and start a groundswell for all the mouth breathers on Instagram to go, look, he should be a starter. He should start now. He drove them down against the 5th stringers against the Eagles. He should start now. He should start the NFL season. They weren't going to let that happen, right? And especially after the way he played and the way he looked, they weren't going to.
But just when everyone assumed this was strictly a Shedeur Sanders conversation, Glenn Cook casually tossed another name into the fire, Dillon Gabriel. Yep, Oklahoma's veteran quarterback suddenly found himself pulled into the same debate without warning. It was like walking into a roast expecting jokes about your haircut, only to find yourself being compared to some other guy on the opposite side of the room. Gabriel didn't ask to be part of this storyline, but Cook made sure his name got stamped into it anyway. Now, instead of one quarterback under the microscope, there are two, and the comparisons aren't going away anytime soon. Whether fair or not, Dillon Gabriel just got drafted into Shedeur's narrative.
Right. I think for him to be in the 5th round was crazy. I think the thing with the situation is, I think it's just more so, I think this was an Andrew Berry move. I mean, obviously, Jimmy Haslam pretty much kind of said it already. It's like, hey, we talked Friday night, we get the quarterback. I would have never thought when we talked about drafting Dillon Gabriel that we get another quarterback the next day. So that to me just showed me that was an Andrew Berry move. And the only reason why, like, as far as me saying he's gonna probably be in the practice squad, because I think you'll keep 3.
And that's when the internet imploded. Because apparently, you're not supposed to put Shedeur Sanders, son of Coach Prime himself, in the same sentence as Dillon Gabriel, who isn't exactly on the cover of GQ. But Cook didn't care. He dropped that comparison with the cold precision of a surgeon slicing through an ego, and the fallout was instant. See, Shedeur. Sanders has been living in a bubble where hype meets expectation. He's the quarterback who's been photographed more than most runway models, the kid who can turn a routine slant pass into a viral clip. He's not just a quarterback, he's a headline generator. And the NFL knows it. But Cook wasn't interested in headlines, he was interested in whether Shedeur can survive an NFL pocket without a collapse, and that's where the honesty came in. Because if we're being real, Shedeur's career at Colorado has been thrilling but also terrifying. On one hand, he's got the arm talent, the poise, and the clutch moments that make scouts drool. On the other, he's been sacked so many times it's starting to look like a hobby. At this point, his offensive line might as well be sponsored by revolving doors. Cook pointed out the obvious: in the NFL, you don't get time for excuses. You either adapt, survive, and elevate, or you vanish into the long graveyard of almost was quarterbacks. And then there's Dillon Gabriel. Not flashy, not particularly hyped, but reliable like a Toyota Corolla. He may not win a beauty contest, but he'll get you where you need to go without breaking down.
Dillon making throws, so just they will continue to grow and develop, but we feel really good about where they are and just excited to keep adding to the team and assessing where we are as a roster. I can't. I'll let Andrew address that. He'll update you when the time is right, Mary Kay, but there's no update. I think what it more speaks to is just, like in August, you may feel like you're deep at a certain spot, and you get to January and there's a scarcity available. So I think looking at
Gabriel has spent years refining his craft, putting up numbers, and showing that while he might not make scouts gasp, he also won't make them sweat bullets when it's 3rd and 5. Cook's comparison wasn't about pitting the two against each other as if they were in a WWE match. It was about categories. Shedeur represents the high-ceiling but high-risk prototype. Gabriel represents the steady, low-risk, plug-and-play archetype. One is a lottery ticket, the other is a dependable paycheck. NFL front offices weigh these differences the way Wall Street brokers weigh investments. And Cook laid it out with the kind of honesty that feels brutal only because fans don't like reality checks. The beauty of it is, Cook wasn't trying to trash Shedeur. He was doing the opposite. Treating him as a serious prospect. Because let's be honest, a lot of people think Shedeur's hype is just a byproduct of being Deion Sanders' son. Imagine minding your business, working on footwork drills, and then suddenly you're trending because a Browns exec casually used your name as a measuring stick. Gabriel fans, few but loyal, came running to defend him, while Shedeur's fanbase launched a counterattack like it was digital warfare. And the entire time, Cook was probably sipping coffee thinking, what did I say that was so wrong?
I'm not sure what game you guys were watching. Again, I state, Shedeur did play bad. He did. But why he played bad is clear as day if you understand the game of football and what he had to work with. Kevin Stefanski, not letting Shedeur come back in the game to finish the 2-minute drill. Oh, I've never seen that before. I've never in my life ever have seen anything like that before. What are we doing? What are we doing? No disrespect to Snoop Huntley. Snoop is probably not going to be on the team. He's probably not going to be.
Because here's the truth, nothing he said was wrong. Shedeur does have enormous upside, but also legitimate concerns. Gabriel does look less exciting, but he's consistent and ready-made for certain systems. NFL GMs don't get to live in a world of fanboy optimism, they deal with the cold math of winning seasons, ticket sales, and job security. Cook didn't invent those realities, he just said them out loud. And that's the thing, when someone in the NFL actually tells the truth, people freak out. If Cook had said, Shedeur is incredible and destined for greatness, the internet would have cheered and moved on. If he had said, Gabriel has a shot to compete at the next level, nobody would have blinked. Gabriel has to show he's more than a game manager with decent numbers. Both are on very different trajectories, but both are fighting the same battle, convincing NFL executives that they can stick around long enough to matter. And that's why Cook's comments hit so hard. Because in a way, he revealed what every front office thinks but rarely says. Shedeur Sanders isn't a guarantee, he's a gamble. Dillon Gabriel isn't a superstar, but he's an insurance policy. Both types have value in the NFL machine, and both are needed. It's just that fans only like hearing about the lottery ticket, not the insurance plan.
So now it sounds like the Cleveland Browns are going to all but imprison Shedeur Sanders in the football sense of a very talented rookie quarterback who obviously needs reps, needs an opportunity, and who now, barring some miraculous luck, will not get the opportunity to play in a single real game. I'm sure many around the NFL are celebrating as we speak. They are chuckling about this. Many in the NFL wanted to teach Shedeur and his daddy a lesson.
The funny thing about Glenn Cook's so-called brutal honesty is that it wasn't even brutal, it was just accurate. But in today's football world, accuracy is offensive. Fans don't want scouting reports, they want fairy tales. They want every quarterback linked to their favorite team described as a future Hall of Famer who just needs the right offensive coordinator and a sprinkle of destiny. Cook didn't play along. He looked at Shedeur Sanders and said, in effect, yeah, this kid is talented, but let's slow down the parade until he proves he can do this against NFL defenses. And apparently, that was enough to send some corners of the internet into meltdown mode. Because nothing terrifies fans more than the idea that their golden prospect might actually face challenges. But Cook had a point. Impossible. Cook's bluntness made one thing clear, Shedeur has the tools, but the tools aren't enough. The NFL is littered with guys who could throw lasers in college but couldn't survive when a defensive end the size of a refrigerator was sprinting at them. It's one thing to torch Arizona State. It's another thing to face the Baltimore Ravens defense when it's 3rd and 9 and the stadium is shaking. And then came the Dillon Gabriel part, which was somehow even funnier.
Answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to fail. That's right, I'm going to say it. Okay. Here we are on national television, right? There's been 11 practices, if I remember correctly. He's been playing against the third unit. He's 4th on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup, and he hasn't had any reps with the first team at all. Think about that. So you're just gonna throw him to the wolves like that, huh? I mean, if he had first team snaps in practice, I don't say that.
Because while Shedeur's fanbase was busy crafting arguments about his upside, Gabriel was quietly being positioned as the anti-Shedeur, a guy who doesn't dazzle, but doesn't self-destruct either. Cook was basically saying, do you want the shiny sports car that might break down, or the dependable sedan that just keeps running? The comparison wasn't personal, it was practical. Gabriel isn't going to be on billboards, but he's also not going to implode if he's asked to step in for 6 games. NFL teams need both kinds of quarterbacks. You don't win championships with depth charts made entirely of lottery tickets. You win with balance, the star, the safety net, and the guy who holds the clipboard like it's a national treasure. Of course, fans didn't hear it that way. The media, naturally, smelled blood. Sports talk shows love nothing more than a quarterback debate wrapped in drama, especially when one of the names involved carries the Sanders legacy. By the time Cook's comments made the rounds, every headline was some variation of exec throws shade or honest take shocks NFL world. As if this was the first time a front office had ever been realistic about a prospect. And let's not ignore the irony. If Cook had sugar-coated his evaluation, everyone would have accused him of being fake. If he had hyped Shedeur without hesitation, critics would have said he was pandering.
Sports has ever angered me more than what the NFL has done to Shedeur Sanders. The Browns showed you their hand by taking Dillon Gabriel 50 slots higher than they wound up taking Shedeur. The head coach, Kevin Stefanski, did not want Shedeur Sanders. The GM, Andrew Berry, clearly did not want Shedeur Sanders, but quarterback injuries conspired against the Browns to start with. They were forced, of course, to give Shedeur a shot in the first preseason game, only because of all that spate of injuries. No surprise here, Shedeur played like the first pick in the draft.
But because he chose the middle path, acknowledging the upside while warning of the risks, suddenly he was too harsh. Apparently, the only acceptable answer is blind optimism. Meanwhile, the fan reactions were priceless. Some swore Shedeur was already a better quarterback than half the NFL starters, conveniently ignoring the fact that he hasn't played a single snap in the league yet. Others insisted Gabriel was the next Brock Purdy, which, let's be honest, is the go-to argument for every mid-round quarterback these days. It's like just say he's Brock Purdy is now the scouting equivalent of duct tape, it fixes every problem in theory. But beyond the memes and the outrage, Cook's comments revealed something deeper. The NFL doesn't care about hype. Cook didn't just give an opinion, he gave a reality check. For Shedeur, it means the path to success won't be a straight line. It'll be rocky, filled with skeptics, and heavily dependent on where he lands. Because landing with a team that has no offensive line is basically a one-way ticket to the injury report. On the flip side, landing with a team that builds around him could turn him into exactly what his fans believe he already is, a star.
When Shedeur Sanders entered the game, the offensive coordinator must have went to sleep or something. Straight up like that. I don't know what happened, what was going on. Or the receiver coach took over the play calls for the first time in his career. Things changed for the offense when Shedeur Sanders came into that game. All of a sudden, when Shedeur enters the game, the Browns are a pass-first team, run second. I sure didn't like the sequence of play calling when Shedeur Sanders entered the game. Pass first, run second. That is never the Cleveland Browns model. And to me, that play calling was done intentionally. I said watch out for unusual play calling when Shedeur is playing. Then I'm thinking he has to get a chance to run his...
Gabriel's future, though quieter, is equally telling. He doesn't have the spotlight, but he has something Shedeur doesn't yet, polish. He's played in multiple systems, made adjustments, and shown that he can manage a game without spiraling. He's the type of guy who might never be QB1 on posters, but QB2 in reality, and every team needs that. And maybe that's why Cook's comments stung so much. Because for all the hype around Shedeur, hearing that he's still a work in progress doesn't fit the Hollywood narrative. Fans want instant greatness, not a development arc. But Cook knows the truth, greatness in the NFL is forged through setbacks, adjustments, and resilience. Here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders, he's both the dream and the warning label. On one hand, the kid has a rocket arm, ice in his veins, and a swagger that screams franchise quarterback. On the other hand, he's been hit so many times behind that Colorado offensive line that he could probably qualify for hazard pay. It's like watching someone test drive a Ferrari on a road filled with potholes, thrilling, but you're always bracing for the crash. And that's what makes his future so fascinating. The ceiling is skyscraper high, but the floor...
Obviously, I think overall as a player, I feel like I put in the work. I feel like everything I do, I try to do it to my best, and that's all I ask for. So I feel like everybody feels like, they should be on the team. you know, and if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong? They belong, you know, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. You know, I think about myself in a high regard, of course. So it's not my decision.
Do you feel like you?
Well, let's just say it's somewhere near the basement of NFL history, where guys like Johnny Manziel and Jamarcus Russell hold weekly support meetings. Shedeur isn't destined for that club, but Cook's honesty made clear he could join it if the wrong team drafts him and throws him into the fire. Because the NFL doesn't wait. If Shedeur ends up with a team that has no offensive line and no patience, he's basically cannon fodder. The league doesn't care about growing pains, it chews up quarterbacks like snack food. But if he lands somewhere smart, say a team willing to protect him, sit him behind a veteran, and let him learn, then suddenly the bright future isn't just hype, it's possible. Step in for 4 games when the starter gets turf toe, and go 2-2 without imploding. He's the NFL's version of comfort food. Not exciting, but satisfying enough to keep a team afloat. And when you zoom out, Cook's honesty wasn't even about these two specifically, it was about the draft itself. The NFL draft isn't Disneyland. It's Wall Street. Every prospect is an investment, every pick is a gamble, and every general manager knows that one wrong decision can get them fired.
Can you address this sort of persistent narrative that you're trying to sabotage Shedeur Sanders, especially after yesterday and not putting him in for the 2-minute?
Yeah, obviously, I don't concern myself with outside type of things, but I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better.
Shedeur represents the risky stock that could make you a fortune, or sink your portfolio. Gabriel represents the safe bond that won't make you rich, but won't bankrupt you either. That's why Cook's comments mattered. He wasn't throwing shade, he was explaining the math. Fans want magic, but GMs want survival. And the truth is, the NFL needs both Shedeur's and Gabriel's. You need the star to sell jerseys, but you also need the backup who quietly saves the season when the star pulls a hamstring. So yes, Shedeur's future is bright. But it's bright like fireworks, dazzling, spectacular, and risky. Gabriel's future is bright too, just in a fluorescent light kind of way, steady, reliable, not Instagram worthy, but always on. And the draft? It's where teams decide which kind of light they're willing to gamble on.